MDOT pay for air conditioning in the room.
I'll work on that, sir.
It's good to have the hot because we'll get out of here sooner.
That's right.
It doesn't mean we have to stay till.
That's right.
Hey, I'm ready. Well,
We've got a few tricks up our sleeve.
make a motion now. Second it. Okay, good evening. My name is Tracy Schultz. I'm the chair of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group. I am opening this meeting of the advisory group and hereby call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Hold this meeting in person at the MDTA Police Building at the Bay Bridge. Attendees should note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on the BRAG webpage after the meeting for the attendees to view and download. Attendees should also note that the recording will include the audio and video from this evening's meeting. Presentations will be available to download from the BRAG webpage. I would ask that anyone in the room with us this evening, please refrain from speaking unless you are presenting or answering questions. That the background noise is minimized. Make sure the phone's on. For those viewing remotely, members of the public pre-registered to comment on a specific agenda item. I'll provide you with an opportunity to comment after the agenda item is presented. We appreciate everyone's patience and ask that you hold any comments until the designated time. We ask that you please introduce yourself by giving us your name and community you represent before moving on with your question or comment. Members of the public joining us via Microsoft Teams will be able to view the meeting only. For security reasons, the chat function in Microsoft Teams is not enabled for MDOT personnel. Any posts entered in the chat window are not visible to staff and will not be responded to. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded in its entirety. For the record, all members are present except for Steve Wilson had to take his flight to the airport. He said he told me when he'll be here. That's it. Good to go. Since our last meeting, we've had a few membership changes. So Mr. Peter Bradley replaces Mr. Hamilton Cheney. Ms. Pat Lynch is back with us again. She replaces Mr. Brad Cole. Mr. Cheney, Mr. Cole's term expired on July 1st. Jack Roderick has had his membership renewed for another term. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. I'd like to thank Mr. Cheney and Mr. Cole for their service to the BRAG. I extend a welcome to Mr. Bradley and Ms. Lynch to the BRAG. I ask everyone to please introduce themselves for the benefit of all members. Start, Mr. Regal.
I'm Kurt Regal, representing Annapolis, and I'm chairman of the Annapolis Transportation Board.
Barbara Dixie, the Broadneck Peninsula.
Tracy Schultz, Chair, Canal Fire Department, couple businesses from Eastern Shore.
Nick Diotis, a resident of Queen Anne County and Bridge Bermuda.
Jack Broderick, Kent Island, and with Kent Island Heritage and a number of other local organizations. Good to be here again.
Tim Smith with MDOT SHA, Administrator.
Will Pines with MDTA, Executive Director. Sean Powell, MDOT Deputy Secretary.
Donald Schloss, Admiral Heights, and Annapolis.
Jim Moran, Queen Anne's County at-large commissioner.
Pat Lynch, President of the Broadneck Council.
Peter Bradley, in Arundel County.
This is on this, these are, what to keep us
The bottom,
together.
MDTA. It's that.
And
Charles County and MDTA consultant.
y'all keep us straight, so we need
Yeah,
a team here. Can't do it without you. First thing we have to do every year, this meeting, we have to elect or re-elect whatever the chair and the vice chair for the upcoming year in accordance with the bylaws. I'll chair this meeting of the BRAG, and then newly elected chair will begin the term at the next meeting. We will now nominate and vote on the chair before proceeding to nominate and vote on the vice chair.
I nominate Tracy Schultz for chair.
All in favor? Thank you, thank you. And vice chair, nominate Barbara, done a great job. Second. Second, all in favor?
Wait for you to get Wait for you to get there.
Hopefully I won't. Okay, thank you all very much for that. Hope we have another good year. COVID-free year, so keep our meetings in-house. It's a lot better seeing faces and meeting online, so. Our first agenda item is review of the minutes of the previous meeting held in January. Does anybody have any corrections to the minutes? I didn't see anybody send anything back after they were emailed out, so. Have a motion to accept the minutes as they were presented.
So moved.
You have any change?
No, okay, it was April.
Well, minutes to April 6th.
Yeah.
Back to previous meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can have a mistake there. Here, Melissa. Approval held in January, should be held in April. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, minutes are accepted. Quarterly group activities recommendations. Our next agenda item is requirement of House Bill 56, which is a report on the group's activities since the last meeting. Any recommendations they have based on those activities. As for BRAG duties, this is Bradley. Pat knows the deal, but BRAG member duties are to provide MDTA with independent, citizen-informed perspective on authorities' operations to Bay Bridge, assess potential concerns about activity to Bay Bridge, educate the public about activity relating to the Bay Bridge, and work with the MDTA and provide pertinent input related to traffic and customer service issues. Any members like to share their individual educational activities and interactions with their communities since last meeting?
I'll give it to you. We had a good, I mentioned this at our last meeting in planning, but we had a good educational opportunity for the bridge for MDTA at Kent Island Day, which is a big celebration of the island, May 21st. And had a large MDTA display with MDTA folks there, including Richard, meeting and greeting the public, and in a very polished way, MDTA color guard leading the Kent Island Day Parade. It's a great tradition, and it kind of puts the bridge in a positive mode. It ain't always in a positive mode, as you guys know. But it's an opportunity to meet and greet, and I think one of the best opportunities of the year. Just in terms of talking with folks out and about. You know, the obvious stuff is traffic, and that, you know, I think my interaction with people is to be as informed as possible. And I think MDTA's increase, Will and I were talking before the meeting, can't do enough to get information out, you know, with the emails and the baseband hotline. The reports are all helpful in staying informed. In the future, broader issue is if as tier 1 goes on, where the heck does the infrastructure go? And that's for the future, but it is a large community concern. Thanks.
Anybody else have any?
Queen Anne's County released an informational, what do we call that, about the existing bridges and the condition and how we got to the point we are now, and that's been pushed out over social media. And we're planning to do shorter segments, maybe 30 seconds to minute segments on, for instance, people say, what's a NEPA? We'll break it up and show what a NEPA is and just break out some of the different things from the main one, talking about the bridges, their age, their upkeep, and what's projected to happen in 2 of the NEPA, just to educate the public. So, you know, they don't keep screaming the same thing because they just don't understand. So, you know, that's what we're going to be pushing for with that. And then we had the governor over, and he put the last check mark over there, which was a great day, I think, for Queen Anne's County and for the Broadneck Peninsula to keep us moving on this tier 2. And looking forward to that getting done, wrapped up. And would you say, Will, 3 years?
No, I did not.
Well, that's fine.
Jim, the QA7 show what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but just some people here might not know, we have a television channel, Queen Anne's County. If you're in the cable system, QA7 is the channel, and it.
Anybody who wants it is more than happy to call us, and
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. If me and you put the expense to do that.
Yeah.
It's already made up with the Broadneck community, the Anne Arundel County's cable. That'd be something to talk to them about. Or
I think we gave a copy to if either.
they have the same channel we do, something like that. They information.
Right, right.
And Jim, thank you for the partnership in your county, kind of leading efforts to get counties have interest in.
Absolutely.
And sending those letters in and putting them on, the CDP
Right.
process.
We're not done there yet.
I know you're not,
We wanna
but,
get- we wanna get a couple more
the
details.
fact that you were there speaking with the governor, says volumes.
Yeah. Thank you.
You can't, but they can share like whatever it is, do the panel on the county, right on the TV.
Right. Yeah.
Blow it out, they got a lot more people than we got. Pat?
Yes, we have two other members of the Broadneck Council Board here on BRAG, Barbara Hitchings, and also Peter is treasurer of Broadneck Council. We have been
You
blessed.
get blame from him for the air conditioning? Get him a checkbook?
But we were very happy to have Tim Smith present to us in February. But at Tim's request, we have deferred any further discussion or meetings until this meeting tonight to deliver any information to the members of the Broadneck Council and residents of the peninsula. We're hoping to get some of the answers that, and I know you're going to speak to that tonight, so we're here to listen.
Well, at our update, I'll provide it.
Put you on the spot, guys.
That was like a hurry up then.
Anyone else have anything? BRAG members? Think got enough information? Alrighty then, so right up next, we have the updates on current projects from MDTA Chief Engineer Jim Hartness and MDOT SHA Administrator Tim Smith. So who do you want to go first? Jim or-
You want to do rock, paper, scissors, or you want me to go first?
Rock, paper,
Yeah, let's do rock, paper, scissors.
I'll go first.
That feats of strength.
Normally I provide updates on just kind of our chart and our operations in terms of, responding to disabled motorists and incidents, as well as construction. So I'll still be doing those two things, but as Pat Lynch mentioned, I will be kind of, I met with them in February. I'll be providing an overview of that, as well as some opportunities that we're going to be looking at for later this summer. So just from, start with the normal items there, just, as you know, Mr. Chair, we've added some additional resources during the summer to help on both sides, on the Western Shore and Eastern Shore. Just since June 12th, those added resources have responded to 154 disabled motorists and 130 incidents. So just, it's been that short amount of time.
I'll tell you.
And then just our overall, if you look at our overall Eastern Regional Patrol, that includes US 50 from basically Davidsonville all the way over to Maryland 309 there in Talbot County, 97 from 50 to 32, 404 from 50 out to Legion Road. So we kind of cover that entire area as part of our assists. So we're up probably about 30% over comparable years, but from January till now, basically middle of June, we've had over that entire area of 522 motor assists and 840 incidents we've managed in that time frame. So we're trying to do it with the same amount of resources we have, but just we've had a tick up in the amount of assists we've been helping in the entire area. So just to give you a little flavor there. On the construction side, we do have some impacting that entire area, maybe not necessarily just on US 50. So we will be paving Maryland 404 near Denton to Maryland 313 later this month and probably into August. We're looking at nighttime, mostly nighttime, but we're also looking at opportunities where we have a day work when we can make it work from a traffic standpoint. In addition to that, we will be our structures department will be doing some bridge abutment as well as joint sealing there at the Chop Tank River on the 404. So just the traffic coming in and out of there. We did just recently, if you're on the Anne Arundel County side of things, we've been paving Maryland 424 there through Davidsonville. We will be paving the ramps there at US 50 very shortly. In addition to that, southbound Maryland 2 there at near the US 50, we'll be doing some of the ramps there. So just be on the lookout for that and potential road closures, not road closures, but lane closures potentially there as we keep our crews safe. Also, we're looking at basically from US on I-97 from US 50 up to Maryland 32. We're looking at that entire corridor from a system preservation standpoint, just from a pavement. If you've noticed, I've noticed, because I remind my folks every time I drive it, is our joints through that area are unraveling a little bit. So we're looking at a system preservation project there, but also we're looking at opportunities that we can use our existing footprint. So we're looking at transportation systems management and operations, meaning trying to use my existing footprint, maybe using a part-time use of the shoulders. So we're going through that planning process and concept design right
2
now.
to 3 lane, maybe.
Just the,
Areas.
maybe it's not just Maryland, but wherever we have folks yielding from both sides of any intersection, it gets tough, you know.
Okay.
Folks think blinker is your yield, but that's just my humble opinion. Also for you, we're looking at that, the Opticon there for the fire department to help them out to improve that. So that's under design, should have that up and running for not too far into this near future. So that's kind of the construction and kind of the operations, but so I wanted to pivot to kind of our community survey and interaction with the Broadneck Peninsula. So last fall, Executive Director Jim Ports, now our secretary, met with the Broadneck Peninsula. That was very much focused on the bridge and where we stood with NEPA and where we were at that point, which was still in tier 1. Much like I said, Commissioner Moran said, we're in much better shape than now than we were then. But that focus, once folks kind of understood where we were for the overall timeline for the bridge, it kind of pivoted to let's look at where our local roads and what we can do to help. So I was next on the docket. So I was invited and presented in February. And what I was able to do there was I was able to offer some concepts that we had, but also kind of share what we've heard from the community, but more importantly, what we want to do is push out an online survey. So from February through the end of March, we gathered some survey information from the community. So as we all kind of know, but I'm going to state the obvious, that some of the challenges through that corridor is we just have inadequate capacity for the demand through that area. And what we were proposing isn't going to solve the congestion problem. What it might do is alleviate some of that on the local roads. Or what it's going to mainly do is move the congestion elsewhere, any solutions we propose. But what we're looking at is trying to look for opportunities. We can reroute those long distance travelers from using the side roads and local roads and try to keep them on 50. And I used the analogy then, and I'll use it now. Basically, because I try to keep things simple because I need to keep a recovering engineer. Basically, you have, I think of it as water, traffic. So you have a pipe. The pipe just isn't big enough to fit all the water we got coming through. So what happens is that water then comes up and around the pipe and up above the ditch and floods the whole area, right? So that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. So just addressing the situation, like I said, we're looking for opportunities to slow, like back to that analogy, either slow the water that's going through the pipe or redirect it and keep it in the pipe itself instead of spreading out. And like I said, it's really just addressing the symptoms and not really the actual challenge here. So the scope of our survey was some basic questions. It focused on like where your home was located, your commuting patterns, times of greatest impact. What are you trying to get to? Is it school, home, work, and types of trips that might be impacted, like I mentioned. So the goal there was, like I said, to get the feedback, but also then pivot and provide some concepts. So we gathered feedback and we basically had 3 different types of concepts. One was a near term, and one was a midterm, and one was kind of a long term concept. Near term was looking at traffic calming, and that means reducing lanes, potentially traffic humps to basically reduce traffic or reduce speeds on those side roads. It's not going to prevent people from using the side roads, but if it's less of a advantage to use the side roads to skip traffic, the idea is to keep folks back on 50. Midterm was trying to take some of those traffic calming devices and instead of making them more of an operational, make them more permanent, making some geometric improvements, maybe adjusting the curvature of the roadway and where we have intersections, looking at potential roundabouts, making it more pedestrian bicycle friendly. Once again, trying to lower speeds, decrease the attractiveness of folks trying to jump the queue and go up the Oceanic. And then longer term, we looked at more of a kind of a creative opportunity there where we kind of relook and change the flow of traffic on the side roads on both on the Broadneck Peninsula side and look at potentially one way in the opposite direction of traffic on US 50 in other words, permanently prevent kind of the queue jumping. So like I mentioned, we started that in February. I think February 24th is when we met. We had that survey open at the end of March. So for the first, I guess, 3 weeks through March 14th. So we had it open for five weeks. For 3 weeks, we got roughly 230 results from the survey. And then March 15th, we got 400 all in 24 hours. And then over the next 2 weeks, we got almost 1,300 results. Now, I say March 15th, not because it was the start of March Madness, although that you could use it a little bit like that. We had some folks push out messages on social media, and I kind of went door to door in the Broadneck Peninsula. And I think that significantly influenced the survey results, and folks very much just focused on the one-way kind of concept and didn't answer the whole survey. So we'll be pushing out all those results on our internet site. We'll have both views, both the kind of the through March 14th, where we're very comfortable with what those survey results are, and then the entire amount, and kind of distinguish between those two. Because in many cases, we asked for zip codes because we had some interesting zip codes, because you could only from your computer enter your zip code once.
Yeah,
So,
I'd like to read the one you got from Croatia.
okay. We'll do that. Okay, we had some interesting feedback from some interesting zip codes. So despite that flurry of activity in the last 2 weeks, it really didn't change the overall message or feedback back to State Highway. It did change some of the statistics, and that's why I asked for some additional patience to make sure we had the results correct. So just overall, the feedback on the survey was, I'm gonna stick with the three concepts: the near term, kind of the operational traffic calming. Almost 60% of the respondents weren't in favor of traffic calming on the service roads. A little more favorable, 44% were not in favor of the bike and ped improvements. So the counter to that is almost 56% were in favor of bike and ped improvements. The challenge there is it builds on itself. Where State Highway is typically not going to do bike and ped improvements without putting some of those traffic calming solutions in there as well. So that was interesting in the survey. But the overwhelming response was 80% did not want the one way, and that was before like I said, the rush on March 15th. If you include that, we're almost up to 90% of the respondents were not interested in that. So from a State Highway perspective, we're very clear on what the community did not prefer. The exception being potentially for bike and pedestrian improvements. But one option that was raised that evening in the public meeting was looking at, came from one particular individual, but it was in the theme of a lot of the comments in the survey was, can we look at managing congestion from the existing ramps? Meaning, is there a way we can not necessarily close the ramps, but I use an example here. We have I-270 with our ramp metering that we were using. Is there a concept we could use there and on US 50? So
Oceanic Drive, the ramp there, that was the focus.
So we wanted to pursue that. We knew we couldn't deploy ramp metering in the official terms, so we looked at just ways we can do that in-house and do it kind of quickly. So that's kind of where I wanted to kind of pivot. We've been looking at those concepts for the last few months. So what we're branding basically temporary ramp management. So what we're looking at is the basic concept is we're going to put a traffic signal at Oceanic, and those folks will come to a traffic signal there at the end of the ramp, very similar to what we have on I-270. The challenge will be this will be very much kind of an old school approach on as far as technology, because we're not deploying any queue detection or video. What we'll be doing is partnering with our law enforcement as well as our operations folks. So green will permit a vehicle to move into flow of US 50. Red would from doing that. That's why law enforcement is going to be critical for this one, because we're sure folks are going to want to do something differently. And that's why what we're going to be doing from now until deployment is a rather robust messaging and marketing campaign, because what we want to do is basically push that message out that those side roads, and at least for that weekend where we're looking at this pilot, aren't going to be a good solution for us. It's like I said, it's different than ramp metering because we're not going to be deploying the full technology, because we would need a year, maybe even more, to design some of that. So I wanted to do something this summer to pilot to see what it was like. Like I said, we're still working through the details with our partners, both with law enforcement, but also our own internal operations, as well as our partners over at MDTA on how that's going to impact them, as well as Anne Arundel County, because we know it's anything we do that impacts our state service roads will flow back to that pipe, not being wide enough. Like I said, that robust messaging will be critical, because what we're really trying to do here is change driver behavior. We're trying to keep them on US 50. The signs we have, that we know works to an extent, but we still have folks with their ways and apps are using other opportunities.
So are you talking about putting this light all the way at the bottom of the ramp when they merge into 50?
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to know.
Now, that's some of the logistics we're working through, because we don't want to create a different safety problem. But we're looking at where that best should be, and that's some of the details we're going to be working through. But what we're doing right now is we're targeting that first weekend in August to try this pilot. So I wanted to go over some of the risks publicly, just to let everyone know, is, like I mentioned before, we're not addressing the actual issue. It's still congestion. We're just moving where that congestion is going to be. So if drivers don't adjust their behavior, meaning if they still use the side roads and just wanted to sit at the light there at the end of the ramp for a while, that could negatively impact the side roads even more than we currently have.
But are you talking about a light that's not going to oscillate between green and red? It's going to go red longer than green? Is that what you're trying, is that your plan?
We're still working on the timing of that, and that's some of the logistics.
Madness that goes on down there now, I don't think anybody's going to pay attention to that light.
That's why we're working on a strong partnership with law enforcement.
Yeah, but then you're pulling them over where, unless you move that guardrail back and you give yourself some more room. That's,
Jim,
I think it is.
so take 18, get on the overpass and take the ramp down to 50 to go over the bridge. You're talking about putting the light on this side of the bridge.
No, it's on this side. It's on this side, right here.
On
Right
the western shore. Only on the western.
That's where I'm talking about.
18's not over.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Whitehall. Yeah, Whitehall. Yeah, we're Wendy's and McDonald's. That.
Be further up at Oceana where you could have seen it.
Right. But when you come down that ramp, put the lights there, isn't that gonna be like a left, right turn on, right?
Not with the signal.
Signal.
It's interesting. I've seen lots of controls for on-ramps onto freeways to control congestion. But this is the inverse of that. You're controlling the off-ramp, which is.
You put that light, you have that light there for a while, that'll deter a lot of people.
And like I said, there's risk to that. We're not sure if we don't change driver behavior, which means strong, robust messaging, knowing that signal is going to be there. That should keep folks on 50. What that will mean is more congestion on the Anne Arundel County side on 50. Where, like I said, we're not addressing the actual issue. We're just moving where congestion is. And that's, like I said, that's why we really want to be proactive with the messaging and try to get that out to change driver behavior. And that's really what the goal there is. In addition to that, what we're doing is we're collecting data between now and then on US 50, but more importantly on all those local service roads to kind of get a control data set on where we're at during a normal summer season, post school being out. We did one with school in. I wanted to get one with school out and see those movements. And then we're going to do one that same day when we do the pilot. It's not day. We'll be doing that weekend. We were doing the pilot to see how traffic behavior has changed, if it has changed.
How long is the pilot gonna last?
I'm sorry?
How long is the pilot going to last?
Still working through some of those details, but we're targeting in a weekend.
Oh, just a weekend?
Yes.
Question? Yes. These options that you are examining sound promising to me. But in a sense, all of them are treating symptoms. The pipe can handle the flow. It can't handle the surge flow.
Agreed.
And so the real problem, the spillover, and in West Annapolis, we have a spillover problem too. The question is whether for the long term, you can't do something to do what we did for the pandemic, flatten the curve. We have talked only very briefly about economic methods like variable pricing, seasonal pricing, for example, or time of day pricing. Is there any consideration? Now, the governor has been opposed to this thing, sort of as a matter of policy. But is there any consideration for trying an experiment of the type that you're going to do on these local side roads for flattening the curve by pricing techniques?
Let me take this one, Ben.
Okay.
So in terms of pricing, we have talked about this several times at BRAG.
Yeah.
And MDTA has said that for the most part, we don't think it'll be effective. And the reason primarily is that, you know, you look at our best times to travel. They're getting to the point where they're 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So when you're talking about, okay, I'm gonna now, in order to change your behavior, I'm getting you to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're gonna spend $20. Is that really gonna influence your behavior when you spent $2,000 on a vacation in Ocean City? So we have some real concerns about how effective it will be, number one.
And I understand those concerns.
But beyond that, the tier 2 NEPA study will give it a wholehearted look. And it'll be one of the, you can actually see on the board, Melissa's going to give a lot more details about that when she presents. As part of all of the active traffic management options, dynamic tolling will be one that will be considered and more fully vetted to be able to kind of, you know, not give it a naysayer's perspective. And I hope I'm not doing that, but I will say we one of the BRAG meetings, Barbara can vouch for this. She brought the idea forward and said pretty plainly, Jim Ports commented that, you know, this is something where if locals really want this option, it needs to be advocated for. And the perspective that I heard when Barbara said, please raise your hands if you're really interested in doing this option and carrying it forward to your local constituents as something that is advocated for, I didn't see any hands go up. And
Well,
unlike,
there's always a problem with this. Everybody's in favor of low prices. I mean, that's just a given. And so it's hard for this policy to gain what I would call popular support. Another point that I want to make is that, yes, there are price insensitive, maybe even most of those who travel are price insensitive in the sense that the rush or the $5,000 vacation is going to occur regardless of the price. But some fraction of the population, and it doesn't take much, it only takes, if you can move 10% out of the peak into another part of the curve, you've made a real contribution to reducing congestion and travel time.
so last summer, right, we provided a detailed presentation on a snapshot of the traffic at that time. And we showed that on certain days coming out of the pandemic, we saw volumes upwards of 12% higher than we had ever seen in prior years. And so when we look at some of these active traffic management solutions, like let's take ferries as an example. The prior study, I think it showed it would maybe reduce volumes by around 1 to 2%. We're seeing days 12% increases and traffic solutions that by themselves reduce 1 to 2%. It's not going to work. It's not going to materially reduce the traffic enough to prevent the kinds of backups we're seeing. Would it in combination with other solutions, could it work and offer some smaller backup than the backup that already exists? Sure, I'm not saying it would be totally inconsequential, but it's not going to solve the fundamental pipe problem that Tim talks about.
Yeah, my problem with these are essentially guesses on how effective it's going to be.
No. The tier 1 NEPA study did a detailed traffic analysis, and we've done a detailed ferry study. All these things have been evaluated.
Well, there are real places where dynamic pricing has had a tremendous impact on. It has, Northern Virginia has implemented this big time, and I'm not suggesting that that's appropriate for the bridge. Because they have an advantage that we don't have. They have alternative routes that people can take.
I'm glad you said it.
Yes, I understand the distinction, and I understand that any price increment, any price control, which is put into the system has to be very simple, very easily communicated, and probably for a very short portion of the year. But I think a trial is something worth discussing, and if it doesn't work, you just go back to the original. But a trial is something I think really ought to be considered.
In the same way that Queen Anne's County went around and leveraged a lot of support from other counties in their own county to demonstrate that advancing tier 2 was something that was materially supported. We need some help. If this is something that folks really want, where's the support?
I hear you.
I mean, if you've got some studies that you want to, email to the group, I would like to look at it, take a look at it. But I kind of agree with Will. I mean, it's, at $5 a gallon, our numbers are up, right? Numbers up. And at that price range, it's, we shake our heads. It's just, they're coming. But I will say that, the travel patterns are changing. I mean, our conversations early in the morning. I mean, I go to work on Saturday mornings and there is a ton of traffic heading towards the bridge at 6:30 in the morning. So it's good. So every little bit does help, but I agree. I think that anybody that's going on vacation, and this is our, we don't have this issue November through April. So, that's your commuters. It's these people heading for the beach for their vacations. They'll spend an extra $20, $30, and it's not gonna matter to them.
They won't even know what the toll is until they get home and.
Right.
They don't know.
Yeah, right, yeah, so.
I've been doing some studying of interactions between MDOT and the counties.
Mhm.
And Queen Anne's County several years ago presented a plan, beach to the bridge. And it was like rejected because of whatever reason, and they sent information about different things, and it said it's under the exclusive jurisdiction of MDOT, SHA. Limitations on public use is authorized by the General Assembly, and certain provisions in the transportation of the article do permit restrictions limiting access to the closure of public roads under specific conditions. And then it says the state law would need to be amended to shift authority and responsibility for traffic safety operations and stops on state highways from MDOT SHA to MDTA. And this mentions Queen Anne's County, but it could also include Anne Arundel. And then the restrictions, if imposed, cannot last more than 90 days during any one calendar year. So if some of the ramps were closed from Memorial Day to Labor Day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, control being turned over to Queen Anne's and Anne Arundel County, it would fall under that 90-day limit. And I don't know how feasible this is, or if the counties would have to go to their senators and state delegates and ask that a law be passed that government, well, not government, but the counties could control some of those ramps. Like, I don't know if that's ever been questioned, looked into. It would probably take further study, but a lot of this came from the state's attorney's office. So if you have any comments on that, I would appreciate it.
I'd be happy to look into more details with you, because that's some of the information you shared is the first I'm hearing it.
Okay, a lot of it came from MDOT, it was the then secretary of MDOT back in, I think, 2017, 2018, or
Okay.
2019.
But I know in general,
Presented.
when the only way we're closing lanes or ramps or roadways is if it's a safety concern. And I think that's where we get into issues is it a safety concern or is it an inconvenience? And congestion in general isn't typically a safety concern. It's usually on the inconvenience side unless it's impacting EMT and response vehicles. And if we
And
have
this-
adequate shoulders and those type of things, and folks, back to the behavior part, if folks are behaving or what they're supposed to be doing, or in our case, we want to change their behavior and keep them on 50. But like I mentioned, I'd be happy to. look
Because I
into
mean,
those
this
details.
is saying that the General Assembly can change and enact a law giving the county's permission to control these ramps. And I don't know if that's something we need to look into, or if it would be even possible. It would probably take further,
Well, I
inquiry
just know
from the,
being
from the,
SHA, I have
you know.
concern with someone else having control over
Yeah.
our roadways.
this is just from all the exchanges that were made between the different groups.
Did it clarify, can you say it again? I thought it said the county would have to take ownership of the entire road,
No.
including the ramp.
I don't think it said that. It said state laws would need to be amended to shift authority and responsibility. Right? Is that
Authority and responsibility.
for traffic safety operations and stops?
So operations means they're gonna take over.
They own the road, right? Then they own the road. So then would you like own, that's that whole,
We looked into it.
I know,
Yeah.
we've had that
I mean,
discussion.
their Queen Anne's County's report was, not report, but request was quite extensive about how they would control their ramps, et cetera. And on this side, the western shore, the main ramp is, on the Sandy Point overpass. If that one were closed during certain periods of time, then you wouldn't have people, a lot of people jumping off and backing up on, local roads, so. Just in reading all this, I thought, is this a way possibly to tackle the problem and look into it and see if, something can be done with it, or the Attorney General's office can say, no way, turn it down?
Like I said, I'm happy to look into it further. Just from a state highway perspective, I would have concerns with another public agency or entity controlling roadways. Now, if the roadway was completely turned over, I think I would still have issues because I'm thinking of my partnership with the folks in Virginia. If we're closing roads in Maryland, just backs up everything up into Virginia, they're not going to be too happy with me. The same way during winter storms in Pennsylvania. So if we just closed all the local municipality roads, it's not going to.
See, I was thinking in terms of specifics, like I said, Memorial Day to Labor Day, that Queen Anne's County and Anne Arundel County could specify that these ramps would be limited and open to local traffic rather than bridge jumpers. So, I don't know. It's just a query as to whether or not something like this could be done.
And Barbara, did they say on the 90 days? I know you said,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever day you had.
It's
Did
a-
they say that it was permissible to break the 90 days up? Because a lot of times when we have a state of emergency, for example, it's for X number of days, or like when we
Yeah.
declare a transportation
It says
emergency.
it may not restrict for more than 60 consecutive days or more than 90 days during any one calendar year.
Okay, so 60 consecutive days, but it doesn't specify whether it's 90 consecutive.
And it's from the transportation code.
Okay, I'm just curious, because like if we declare a transportation emergency, we can only do it for 5-day chunks. Unless there's a state of emergency or a federal state of emergency or something like that. And we can't, and when we have 4 or 5-day chunks that we can do, when we're done, we're done. I don't know if that 90 days means it's 90 days from start to finish, if you do one. Obviously the 60, as you said, so there are a lot of questions that need to be asked on that.
So this has been a hot button item for years. Queen Anne's County's been pushing it. And is there a way we can get somebody from the Attorney General's office, give us a determination, a definite determination, either come to this meeting, next meeting, or give us something in writing? So I know they've had some stuff here from Jim Force has brought us different documentation, stuff like that, sort of takes the law, and we're getting.
Yeah, but the law is.
That's how you want to.
It's how you ask the question, is how you get the response.
So can we get a determination from somebody that has a legal authority to give us this is it, the questions asked, this is how you determine it, this is what it means?
Let me say something. I have studied this and I don't see how it would work. And I think rather than spending more time on it, you need, Barbara can forward it to you and you can look and digest it and see if it has merit. Because I didn't see,
The problem is we're all digesting it differently.
well, it's fairly straightforward as far as reading to understand.
If we got another determination from Jim Ford's, another way of understanding that. Different right, I mean, it all comes down the same way, you can't shut down a state road. That's an emergency pretty much,
Then you have to find a legislator or legislators that are willing to,
more than one.
in an
Let's
election.
just
That
say
shouldn't
that
be
the
a problem.
general.
Well, actually, Tim brought this up. You got some risks with this. You're gonna exacerbate the backup on 50. So Jim Moran on his drive home is gonna be stuck in traffic. So the things that Anne Arundel County may like on the Friday commute back home, there's gonna be a lot of people that aren't so happy, right? That's one problem. Second problem is McDonald's gonna like that they can't get patrons anymore? Is the car dealership gonna be disappointed that not as many people are coming? You're gonna have enemies that don't like this option either, so it's,
Well, let me ask this question to the state. Do you think, now honestly, do you think if the ramp at Oceanic was closed, the Broadneck Peninsula and those access roads would not have any beach traffic on it and allow them to free? That's the question. If the ramp was closed, would the Broadneck Peninsula be here from St. Margaret's to the bridge complaining?
I think I know the answer to that.
Well, it'll take a couple weeks to tackle.
No, I'm just saying, but if it's closed, right, it's gonna take more than a couple of weeks to educate the public.
Right.
I mean, it's taken well over a year, probably closer to 2 in Queen Anne's County for people to stay off our side roads, and it's working. It's working to an extent. The backups yesterday were all the way to Nesbit, which is about 9 miles, and,
Here's the outlets.
yeah, exactly. So my question is, I mean, I can remember 7 years ago in the tour, the MDOT tour, I rolled out a map the length of this table, from the Bay Bridge all the way to Easton, and I said, why don't we hold the traffic at 404? And everyone said, you can't do that, you can't do that. Well, yesterday I sat in 6 Mile backup when there was lights.
Right.
And we do that, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing to help the congestion and the rest of the span. So my question is, if the state believes that closing Oceanic Drive in either in perpetuity or closing it just for Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays would alleviate all of the headaches on the Broadneck Peninsula up to, from St. Margaret's Inn, then you guys should be finding that solution. Because we have to, we have to ask questions, and we have to ask the right question to get the right answer. And I mean no disrespect, but I think that that's the problem. I think that, we're jabbing at things going, well, why can't we just, I'm very worried about the light, and I get the light. If the light stays red, traffic shouldn't move. But we had a lot of issues pulling tractor trailers over that weren't in the right lane and causing problems and bottlenecks. God knows what's gonna happen at the bottom of that ramp. And that's what I'm saying. I applaud the effort, but I'm kind of concerned with the safety. So, and not of the commuters, but of the officers. Because that gets hectic down there, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk about is when you get up to the divider to get on the contraflow or stay on the eastbound bridge, I mean, people are hitting the cones. Going, I don't want to get on there. I think maybe we should have more signage saying, look at this lane is contraflow. So if you don't want to be on that contraflow bridge, get on the westbound bridge, you need to move over now. I mean, it's just some issues. But getting back to the main point here is that if you guys, silence to me is, yeah, you kind of agree with that. So,
No, I don't. When I say I don't know, let me give you a perfect example.
Okay.
The last several weekends, Sandy Point Park has been full capacity
Yeah.
and closed.
Right.
And when that happens, they're rediverting traffic. So what
and
happens?
they're rediverting to Queen Anne's County's parks. Yeah.
Sure. So what happens? Somebody that went to Sandy Point from the eastern shore, now Oceanic's backed up.
Right.
They want to go eastbound
They go back to St. Margaret's.
and do what when they try to get back on?
Well, they
Fall
got,
up a different direction of the side road.
well, I think I'd take that gamble with 100 vehicles versus 5,000.
The point being, Jim, is that these things,
It's an entire system. I don't think looking at one ramp fixes the entire system.
No, I think it would fix the system all the way back to St. Margaret's, because anybody that gets off from St. Margaret's to go on an access road, they're gonna have to turn around and come back. And it's gonna take a while to educate them with the signage, but I mean, that, if you wanna try something out, a pilot, that would take care of it. But again, you're not gonna see it because it's gonna take weeks, if not months, for the public to get the message. Don't try, circumvent it. And it also frees up the bottleneck right here at the merge, because you're right, these cars trying to merge on slows down the entire queue.
I've been working on that question with Jim Ports since March. And that's the subject of opening or closing that ramp on Oceanic. And everything that we have studied says we cannot. And it boils down to the legal issue of, there's the word safety.
So we get it, that's my final thought here, is can we get somebody to give us a determination? We're all sitting here pulling straws and nobody really knows the legal, whatever. We think we can, we think we can.
Jim has all the material to have that done. Secondly, I'm not sure if Tim knows this. We are putting 2 new traffic lights on St. Margaret's Road, right at the corner of Old Mill Bottom Road, which is the first jump off for eastbound traffic trying to get on the service roads. Were you aware of the fact that we have one that's going in right at the corner, intersection of St. Margaret's and Old Mill Bottom?
Stuff related.
Worrying about the fact that if they're really trying to get off, they'll learn pretty soon that they can't because they're gonna be backed up over to Red Hot and Blue. And then there's gonna be another light that is a couple hundred feet away from at the church, and they're gonna be synchronized. But those will be going in, we're told in 23. And that will be the first impediment to a slider right into the St. Margaret's.
So they're about to answer these questions, want somebody to show up here or just sit here and keep guessing? Want somebody from state's attorneys or attorney generals or whatever, to give us an answer or what? They're gonna sit there and keep guessing the best
Come
stuff.
from the state's attorney's office. Yeah.
Yeah, we can get somebody. I mean, they can give us a straight answer, yeah. I mean, they're the ones that have to fight the case, right?
Would you close that thing permanently or just?
So they don't know because they don't know the law.
Yeah.
That's what we don't try to sit here. I mean, the guys go by what they're told. That's what they have to do. They're told by their people, no, you can, or yes, you can. That's what they do. We're told things. We read it a different way, try to massage it to make it benefit us. We can close it. They're saying, our God telling us you can't close it. Maybe we read the question this way, we can close it. They're saying, like, we read it this way and our people tell us you can't close it. So
It can be closed for safety reasons. We're closing it for
So-
traffic reasons. And the question is, how do you define safety?
Well, you-
That's where.
it's closed for a safety reason. The safety thing's already happened.
You know, we could close the
Because-
Jersey Turnpike for safety reasons.
Right, I mean, it's like, we could close it to prevent somebody that's having a heart attack,
Yeah,
to
we
get an
can.
ambulance there within 5 minutes instead of 20 minutes. So you provided service and kept them going
I
to cardiac
spent so
arrest.
many hours on this.
So I mean, so, but it's
I can't.
ways, different ways you can look at things and spin it around. So can we, who do we have to talk to?
What's the department's source of legal advice?
Who would be the one to contact or who can contact?
The Attorney General's office, but
Yeah, that's cool.
City's principal counsel, Kevin Reynolds, has been working on these questions.
He's probably way up to date on them. He's probably way up to date what needs
I believe has been part of the discussions today.
for years. Do you feel comfortable bringing them to our next meeting? Like them to our next meeting? Turns it down, turns it down. All we can do is ask. Nice.
Attorney General's office does not technically work for Maryland.
I mean, it would be better going to them or getting your legal counsel?
No, I think we're their client. We can ask for their, we can invite them. See what happens.
Okay. Keep this up, shoot somebody email out or whatever.
I think it would be helpful too if Barbara shared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some.
She can forward that to you and you can forward it to them. Just tell them, we're just getting, everybody talking about everything. I'm just working on a circle. I agree. You all got to stick to your guns. You got a job to do and stuff. You got laws to follow. You think we can massage the laws, make them more favorable to us. It's all good. Depends who gives you the massage, I guess. All right. Got anything else?
I think I've said enough.
I have one more thing. I know, I thought it was a couple months ago, Dominion Road coming out to 50 heading east. That access, that acceleration lane is any plans to get, I thought there was, somebody went out there and did a bunch of markings. And I thought that was gonna get taken care of.
Need to be repaved to me.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it is really bad shape. So if there's any way we take a look at just, I mean, that's the only one I noticed that's in pretty bad shape.
Okay. I can look into that.
Thank you.
Coming out of the outlets.
By Burger King.
Yeah, by Burger King.
Right.
Yeah.
While they're doing that, they need to make an exit off to Safeway and
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. So everybody in the car stay off the intersection.
Keep out of the road.
I'll just add too on Tim's message there, that on all of the incident response, MDTA recently provided a Facebook video that we put out to the public on #77 to let everyone know that that's a convenient way if you do have a breakdown, that you can get support from either Tim's team or our team during incidents. Just encourage if you can reshare that with your community, that would help. You know, folks may not know, they might call 911, they might go to the wrong place. #77 is the best way.
You know, I used it last night, as a matter of fact. Coming home from Stevensville, behind the old Acme, Fall Classic Brewery. There was a car down in the ditch. And I could see a light on inside, so I pulled over and engine was running. Crashed into the ditch in a 45-degree angle, nobody around. I called #77. And it went right to Maryland State Police and, center. It works in like 30 seconds. They're aware of it. It's a good system.
So just encouraging to echo Tim's point, if you wanted to share that, Broadnet Council Facebook page, whatever, we put out a video on our page.
Another good thing to put out in the public is your tank full, can you make it across the bridge, your electric charge? Last accident we had Saturday, Sunday night, caused the whole accident was out of gas. So how can you be? So,
Like I say, for the record, you know,
When the
this is
41.
a great thing that we're doing here in collaboration. And I really do. I appreciate everything that goes on and all the information you bring. And I don't want this to be an adversary thing, but you know, we're looking, we have to answer the constituents and we see the problems every day. You know, I travel it every day and I think that you made huge progress in the last 2 to 3 years. And I'm very appreciative for the state's, you know, involvement in that and helping Richard over at the bridge and you guys coming here and answering our questions. I know sometimes it may look like the hot seat, but it isn't. It just, I hope we're working all together for the same thing to get the traffic to flow. And I use the hourglass term, you know, instead of the hose, but I kind of like that. It does overflow and make a mess. So, but thank you.
we all definitely need to work together. We're not gonna sit here, I'm not gonna let you guys beat up. If I'm sitting here, I'll work together and try to get to a reasonable answer to all our questions, and that's why I think Attorney General's office and here somebody that we can stop either ask them all the questions and get our answers, or they can stop answering, get an answer. We won't have to ask the question anymore. Take all the pressure off you guys that going back and forth. So hopefully that'll work out. We'll get somebody in here. All right, everybody done with that? That works up enough.
Yeah, they got the other guy with the good haircut. He's up next.
He's got it easy now. These smart ones, that can be paid as well.
Pulling up the table for your information. It's you don't have it, so we have that for you, and we'll walk through these with some quick updates. So our first project is BB 2757, which is the replacement of the 5 kV feeder eastbound span and over Cool. Project is completing some punch list items on the new system. So we're nearing the end in preparation for our final cutover. We're looking final commissioning and switch over August of this year. And then that's also are still currently doing the North Bridge cable installation with cutover on the North Bridge to happen. Our next project is BB 2819, the westbound Bay Bridge deck rehabilitation. So some things that are currently ongoing or have been recently accomplished is that we've started the lane striping, the the lane markings that are on the bridge, on the westbound bridge, so those are being replaced. Some of that is completed, some are yet to start. We started with the shoulder line, the yellow and white lines near the bridge railings. Additionally, the team is working on replacing those lane use control gantries, structures over the roadway. We have 12 of those completed. 3 of them are currently under construction, with 4 then left for demo. That's essentially what's going on in that project. So our next one we'll move to is PB 3002. This is one of our work order based on-call projects to make priority repairs and other modifications to the bridge as needed. This project is wrapping up. Essentially, we have 1 open task order remaining, and we'll be, have a few repairs left to finish on that, and then we'll be closing out that contract. On to the next one, BB 3008. That's the Bay Bridge automated lane closure system. So that's the project on the eastern shore. So recently they've been installing the gantry structures that carry the large lane use control signals. They've been splicing their fiber for communication, making terminations, and testing those connections and that communication. The next 90 days, we'll be finalizing those gantry installations with the commissioning of those gantries, bring those lane use control signals online. We'll be removing the existing structures and their foundations, and we'll be commissioning the gates as well. Now to BB 3014. That's sort of the companion project that's on the western shore here. That project has also recently been erecting a lot of the lane use control gantries, including a very large, significant one right at the crossover here at near the old plaza area. They've also been working on the fiber and the electrical wire pulling and splicing and terminations. The next 90 days, they're going to continue to work on that fiber and electrical, and then they'll begin with the testing and commissioning of all those new gantries and their communications. Then next is BB 3014. That is our relatively new on-call. So earlier, BB 3002, that one was ending. This one is the replacement for that. This one has been underway less than a year, about almost coming up on a quarter of the way through this. We've completed 11 task orders to date. We use this contract to address findings from our inspection program. So we've addressed 70% of the priority ones, which is the highest priority repairs. Knocked those out in the first year so that we can be ready for additional ones as they come in under new inspection cycles. So guys are out there working on any number of repairs, any variation of things as it's needed. Okay, so BB, let's see, 3012, it's the queue detection system that we have teamed with State Highway and the University of Maryland CAT Lab. The CAT Lab has developed a user interface that will be used by our operations and construction folks. They has a map with the ability to display various data streams that both SHA and MDTA collect, and we'll be able to utilize that for decision making in terms of lane closures and contraflow operations. It's an additional tool in the toolbox. Right now, at 3 sensors locations installed, and that's been useful to give the developers at University of Maryland the data stream to start getting that in and processing it. Have remaining sensors, and we're just working on the approval now, so have that under construction. We are still developing that interface with Maryland Cat Lab. All right. The next 2 projects are still in design. We have BB 2726, which is the eastbound redecking phase 1. So that project has progressed in design and has completed the 90% mile and hit the milestone, and we're working over the next few months here to work with the contractor that we have on board to work on a pricing for that work. And we would hoping to start with some construction of things like moving utilities sort of out of the way, relocating things this fall, with major work beginning next year, late spring. So nothing major at that time, but we are starting to gear up on communication coordination, those kind of efforts in advance of the major work. And again, this type of work, this project is overnight closures, and so minimizing impacts to traffic. And the last one we have on the list, BB 3004, and that project is to construct a new project management office as well as a maintenance equipment storage building on the site here. So not on the bridge. This is off bridge. This project has completed design. We're wrapping up permitting, and we are submitting it to procurement in a couple of days. So it'll be in procurement and get advertised, hopefully 2 months. That concludes my project updates.
Do I have any questions?
Just a comment, I know I've said this before, but it's a really big deal. The redecking, doing it only at night. Very significant, and it worked on the westbound span when it was done for the suspension aspect. Amazing as it is, but it works. I just wanted to kind of give a thumbs up and hope it works the same way going forward.
We're counting on that.
All right, anybody else?
So, that, I should have looked there.
Very state highway guys paving ways.
That's good.
Okay, our next will be updating our grade crossing study. And Ms. Melissa Williams, Heather Glenn.
Just me today.
This will be,
Sorry.
we have enough information to fill our heads.
Mine's overwhelmed already.
Sure, let's get started.
Yes, thank you for having me here today. I'm Melissa Williams. I'm the Director of Planning and Program Development at MDTA. And I've got an update for you on Tier 1, Tier 2 for the Bay Bridge. So at the end of April, the combined FEIS, the Final Environmental Impact Statement Record of Decision, so the FEIS ROD, was signed by the Federal Highway, which was great news. That was the conclusion of the Tier 1 study. The FEIS ROD selected Corridor 7, which you can see on the right map, the kind of highlighted snake kind of area. Corridor 7, which includes the existing Bay Bridges as the selected corridor alternative. If you are interested in looking at the FEIS ROD, it is available for review online at baycrossingstudy.com. We'll give you guys that website, but it's pretty simple, baycrossingstudy.com. So we were very excited to wrap up tier one, get signature and get selection of that corridor alternative. But then even more exciting news came on June 10th, when Governor Hogan announced the launch of Bay Crossing Study Tier 2. So that is the next step in the strategy to address the congestion and future traffic demands across the bay. Building on Tier 1, Tier 2 will focus on Corridor 7, which, as I said, is the 22-mile long corridor from the Severn River Bridge over to the 5301 split, including the 2 existing bridges. And only this corridor will be looked at in Tier 2. MDTA and Federal Highway Administration, as the lead federal agency, are following the National Environmental Policy Act process, which applies to all projects that receive federal funds, federal grants, federal loans, or federal approvals. So I'm anticipating that there may be federal involvement. We will continue to follow that accepted process.
Well, you own that, it would have to be federal and state highway and MDTA, because you're going further than the bridges, MDTA's jurisdiction, so it's gonna be more than just bridge.
What will Tier 2 accomplish? Why are we looking at Tier 2, and what is the path forward? So we'll be building on Tier 1, but we'll be looking at specific alignments within that 2-mile corridor. So essentially, we will be taking the existing bridges, we'll be looking north of them, between, south of them. We'll be looking throughout the corridor, throughout about a 2-mile wide, 22 miles long. We will identify a no-build alternative as well as various crossing types. Types include a new bridge, a bridge tunnel. We'll be looking at all of those things. So that's why when we say Bay Crossing, we are not limited to a bridge at this point. We'll be looking at all different types of crossing. We'll also be evaluating whether to keep or replace the existing structures. So that's both structures will be evaluated, and a recommendation will be made as to whether to keep or do not maintain the existing structures. We'll also be determining the number of lanes needed, keeping in mind that bridges, a single lane on a bridge can handle less traffic than a roadway lane. So we need to look at compatibility wise, how many lanes will be needed? It's a bridge, a bridge tunnel. We'll also be looking at modal and operational alternatives. And those are the things that were discussed just a little while earlier by Will, talking about ferry service, bus, and transportation system management, transportation demand management opportunities that might be available, not as standalone to solve the overall problem or just the purpose of the project, but in combination with the alternatives to supplement them or improve them. We'll also be looking at potential environmental impacts. I'm trying to remember what year, several years ago, it was 20 years ago. We worked with some environmental agencies and elected officials, and we had this lovely map. And what we did was we overlaid environmental features over the bay. And by the time you overlay all of the environmental features, completely covered. We have a lot of very sensitive environmental features within the study corridor. We will be doing both desktop research as well as boots on the ground research, looking at all of those resources. We will also be looking at project delivery methods as well as funding options, looking at things like the tolling, what type of tolling would we do, things like static tolling, medium tolling, time of day, all those different things will be looked at throughout this project. One of the key things that we'll be doing is engaging with residents, communities, officials, stakeholders, and other members of the public to get more detailed input, keeping in mind the input we received during Tier 1 as the whole bay. So it's kind of broad, it's extremely broad. Now that we've narrowed the corridor down, we feel that we'll be able to have a lot more detailed discussion with folks and get some really valuable input. We anticipate that it will take slightly more than 3 years. More like 4 to 5 years.
3 years, 1 month.
Okay. We're looking at more like 4 to 5 years to complete. And then if a build alternative is selected, we would be completing the project again with the final environmental impact statement record of decision document approved by the Federal Highway Administration. That document would tell us where we would have a crossing, what type of crossing, like I said, the number of lanes on the crossing. And another key feature there is will be addressing how the construction could possibly be funded, methods of funding something of this really large magnitude. So what are we doing now? Governor announced the project June 10th. What have we been up to? I promise you, we have been extremely busy. We have been working on developing our in-house teams as well as our consultant teams and making sure that we had the resources available that we needed to take on this project. We've also been meeting with State Highway and coordinating with State Highway, realizing that 4 miles of the project is MDTA bridge. The rest is State Highway roadway. And MDTA is leading up the project, but State Highway is an integral partner with us in this project. So we've been working with their environmental staff, with their travel forecasting staff, their planning staff to make sure that we're on board and we're working together. There will be no, there aren't 2 separate paths. It's one path forward for the project for the 22-mile corridor. What's next? What will you see next? This is a lot of behind the scenes kind of work. We are planning to have some public workshops with the goal of announcing the project to the public and starting to get that more detailed feedback from the public. I do not have dates yet, but I promise you, as soon as those dates are available and they are announced, they'll be on the Bay Crossing Study website, newspapers, social media, and there's about a 100% chance that Melissa will be sending an email to all of you, letting you know when those meetings will be. Spoiler alert, we are looking at having both in-person as well as virtual opportunities for reviewing information and providing input. That said, I'm very excited to be here. We're very excited to be taking on this new project. I don't have a lot to share yet. As I said, we are forming our teams. We are getting coordinated efforts. We are working on data collection and things like that. Our first meeting will be kicking off to receive input from folks, and we'll continue with the project. And we will be coming back to BRAG and sharing with you the information as we move forward.
Right.
So is there some sort of guide for the NEPA phase 2? Is there something that has benchmarks, for instance?
So NEPA is a beautiful, it's a beautiful thing. There are legal parameters for how to move forward,
Okay.
but each project is going to have its own nuances,
Okay.
shall we say? And those are the things that we're working on now. I said the main thing, it's a very odd project, that 18 miles is state highway, and only a couple of 4 miles is MDTA. So we're working on those things now. We will, in the near future, have a list of, milestones and a schedule developed. We're simply not quite there yet. That's one of the things we're working on right now, but we do anticipate about 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, and Jim, just to, obviously a lot of the question there, the heart of it is, why is this gonna take so long? Right? That's really what you're driving at. And I just want to echo what Melissa said, that we're in a sensitive Bay Area. It's 22 miles long. We're next to adjacent businesses, communities, parks, waterfront properties. I mean, you name it. This is a very complicated study that will have to investigate probably every kind of impact known to man. And so that's the federal process. We're going to follow that federal process because we have to. It's the law. And so it does take time. It's not a thing that we can make shortcuts because frankly, that will lead to challenges to the decisions that are made at the end, the record of decisions that is ultimately the most important outcome of what we're doing. We don't want to spend 3 years reaching a fast outcome and then have all kinds of challenges out the wazoo because we didn't involve the community properly, fully vet all of the locations, the alternatives. I mean, you heard Melissa talk about finance, project delivery. I mean, the list goes on. The board gives a lot of the details. It's complicated. And I wish that it was easy, but we're going to put in the work to do it right.
I totally agree. I just, after what phase one, how long phase one took. And I know we had COVID in there and everything else, but you gotta give somebody hope, gotta be light at the end of that tunnel. So those businesses are still there if and when this ever gets built, because we know, you know, the environmentalists and the conservationists are lining up now to try and stop this, you know, because they're not concerned with the public or the traffic. They're just concerned with, we don't want any more growth. So.
Everybody, including folks that care about the environment, are an important stakeholder to us.
Absolutely,
They have to. And
absolutely.
so we need that input. We're gonna have those discussions. We're gonna collaborate, come to decisions that some are gonna like, some are gonna love, some are may not like. But we have to sort of balance and come to weighting that to make a decision that follows the federal process and that Federal Highway can frankly support.
Let me put a light. Can I put a little light to it?
Put a big light to it.
Okay, let me put a light to it. What is so wonderful about tier two? And why is it gonna take so long? Keeping in mind, we're going to be choosing exactly where, exactly what, and we're gonna be telling you how we're gonna do it and how we're gonna pay for it. And in order to finalize this, to get the federal approval, we have to have those plans in place. Viable, valid financial plans for a multi-billion-dollar project will be in writing within the next 4 to 5 years. It's really, that's a big light at the end of the tunnel to me. Tunnel, bridge tunnel. You know what I'm saying? So this.
I know what you're saying, and I appreciate it. I just, I
But
mean,
not
we also
only-
know there's 3 or 4 years of engineering and 4 years of construction. So the peninsula is dealing with this traffic now, and they're gonna be dealing with it for 13
You're right.
more years.
You're
And
right.
where are we gonna be at that time? I mean, that's the part that's alarming. That's why the urgency and the constant push and the coalition and everything else is, you know, the life of the Eastern Shore really depends on this, and it's gonna be scary. I don't know that I'll still be around, but, you know, I hope that the businesses and the prosperity that's going on there now can continue, and we'll see. This is our lifeline.
Some of us seniors here are just smiling, thinking, well, we know we won't be here.
I mean, Jim,
We all are.
you know, I took your call 7 AM on a Saturday morning about the traffic, right? It started out as a text, went to a call. The point being that we live and breathe this every day. We don't love it either.
Right.
We're here with you to try to manage it the best we can.
Right.
We've
We're
been
doing,
trying to get to this point for 20 years.
Right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, you've been through the previous studies that we
Yeah.
weren't
Oh, yeah.
able to get the momentum. Governor Hogan has gotten this momentum for us. And this is a great place to be. It really is.
Got a question, point?
Sure.
This is a long-term project, 10 to 20 years, before vehicles are. A lot's gonna change over a long period of time, and my question is about the evolution of vehicle technology. 20 years from now, our vehicles are gonna look a lot different from what they look like now. They're not only going to be electric, they're going to be networked. And it will be possible, to move vehicles, 3, 4 times as fast across a bridge like this, through a choke point. And I wondered if these studies are going to embed any kind of technology prognostication.
We will be. We will be. We've been working, as I said, with State Highway, but also with Federal Highway, getting their input on what, how they're moving forward and how they propose that we look at traffic and what modifications might be needed. At this time, we are working with State Highway. Currently, the projected traffic number would be the year 2045. We're looking, we might be able to get to 2050, which would be projecting even further out, and things like that will be looked at. One of the things we're looking at in addition is the EV charging stations and the growing rate of EV.
And the networking is really, really huge.
So these are all pieces that feed in. Absolutely.
one other piece that sort of, we talked about at traffic management and the types of things we're gonna analyze. But we talked about at a prior meeting that the models that we use for traffic forecasting are what we are required to use by the feds and that are developed based on local government input. And so if the local government expects to make investments in EV and expand out and have fully autonomous and connected vehicles 100%, to be able to accommodate what, then that would be reflected in the models that we would utilize to analyze the traffic.
I have a question. What can stop this, slow it down? Who could stop it, slow it down?
Next governor.
What I can say is that, the governor supports the project. Right now, we have in the capital program, meaning we have funded for the Transportation Authority to move forward with this project and be fully funded for it. We have $28 million funded right now in our capital program for it.
So the governor could come in and
John, would you like to, I mean, of course, there's a legal answer, but, things could change, but I feel that we're well prepared by having the money funded and already in the program.
Yeah, I mean, I, obviously, the answer is yes. So that could happen, but being programmed, that's still a constituency that's already been taken care of by the, I'm not taken care of it, at least up to next step. So there's no guarantees what would happen, with the next governor. $20 million is quite an investment. It is in the capital budget, so.
We're as well prepared as we can be.
And this is a project that has a really large abundance of local support. The path that we're taking at this point, we have 12 resolutions and letters from counties and Ocean City that all are requesting that we do exactly what we're doing, that we move forward with, well, they give a little more specificity on the option that they like, and we had to analyze the full range of options, but the option that is requested, that has been requested, will be evaluated as part of the study and is still a viable option on the table through this study process. So I think the local support is really relevant, and it's helpful to any governor to know that they have that local support.
Yeah, I agree. Well, because, like I said, you have 12 resolutions that are immediately affected by the bridge. And then, of course, the statewide support for the study that came about. I mean, it is hard for someone to come in and go, you just never know. But that broad support from West Coast all the way over to the ocean is very important, so.
anything else? My questions?
I have one, the question that I'm asked the most often of residents of the Broadneck Peninsula, and don't laugh. It's this, with all your engineers here, somebody can just tell me yes or no. Is there any consideration possible that the third bridge will go between the two existing bridges? I can't imagine it, but some people are saying that would make it so much easier for especially those who live in South Broadneck Peninsula, that their homes that.
Answer.
Let it sure the engineer answer.
It will be evaluated.
I would say it's an alternative that will be evaluated. I mean,
Nobody's gonna say quick no.
there's Coast Guard approvals, there's engineering analysis, there's what are the impacts, there's how do you fit the congestion when you're building it in construction. I mean, analysis out the wazoo to decide if that's the right.
I know. I just thought maybe somebody would say, are you kidding me?
That definitely, no.
Okay.
It's definitely something we'll be looking at.
Alrighty. The next,
Thank
thanks
you.
very much. Next is unfinished business. Updates to inquiries from the April meeting. Tim. Is that right, Melissa?
Oh.
Put me on the spot again.
So, but this one was specifically about updating the signs, correct?
Yeah, the request was just that on the western shore, there would be signs that were similar to what was on the east side that encouraged staying. Literally state highways accomplished that action.
Yeah, so I know there was some concern about the wording, but we checked with our legal as well as our engineers and all the MUTCD, and Will's used Wazoo twice, well, I was Wazoo once. So we did our due diligence and they're obviously up and functioning as intended.
Good. Questions for that? Great. Next, item of business, new business. First is our annual report that was sent out. And I haven't heard anything back from anybody, so must not be any changes needed, so. Everybody good with the annual report to be sent into the governor?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah.
Who's got the motion? Bo?
Yeah, I'll
Second. Great. Thank you. Get that together. Good report. Thanks for putting it together. Let's see. That was. Now we can floor for discussion. Anybody, any open business they want
I have one. Tim, I know it's between you and Antelope County. I've had people sending me pictures about overgrowth hiding signs. Is there anything that can be done? Do they need to report it, or does Anne Arundel County and the state highway periodically go through and trim overgrowth?
So the concern is brush and tree
Yeah,
obstructing
yeah.
signs.
I mean,
Okay.
should I advise them to contact you specifically about the area?
Well, we have, can, the hard answer. But we have on our website, and I can share that with you, you can share with me, a customer care management system. So when folks identify a maintenance issue, whether that's litter, whether that's,
Well, these are all about overgrowth,
Agreed.
covering up signs, yeah.
but if they identify their specific signs, we can.
Yeah, they
address
sent me,
them.
they sent me pictures.
I've had 2 items on that system posted for 2 years and there's been. So
Well, it depends, if it's back to your topic before about dynamic pricing, they're probably still gonna be on there for quite some time, but.
Is there someone we should thank that got the 28 million bucks to keep going? Is it in here? Anybody give thank you for? There's something,
to? That report was done before that was.
can we do it?
Letter. For BRAG committee. We do that up there.
It's the resolution.
Good, bad. Yes.
It certainly wouldn't hurt if the BRAG expressed its gratitude to the governor for supporting the NEPA tier 2.
Let me get together for us.
Since you want to do a whole letter, you can just put it in the report.
But hey, that was just done before the.
That
22nd meeting.
Yeah, obviously, the 28 million just showed up.
What do you think's more effective? Letter probably.
Yeah, a letter.
A letter from the brag? Yeah. Everything right, yeah. I work with you on that.
Anita, which
I don't have the name, phone number and address.
You guys drafted, send a copy out.
Get certificate.
Well, and also that, that letter, because, that letter could be, because this is the new fiscal year, that letter could be included next year as well, the letter,
Right.
and that's because it'd be part of this meeting.
Right, so next year's.
Right, but then a letter now, because he will be leaving in January, he would probably love to see that. No, it is.
Very good.
Chris, you'd sent out an email asking if anybody had any items to discuss. Please email. I sent in an email.
14.
Excuse me.
I have 14.
Well, I know, but I've already gotten rid of them.
Yeah.
I only have 2 now. So I only have 2. Did anybody take a stab at them, or is it, I'm actually looking for number 7, which is who has the authority to declare the 50 East ramp at Sandy Point or any other ramp a safety issue? Please provide a list of those individuals. And number 8 was, is there a process for declaring safety issues? If so, under whose authority? We don't need to answer them now.
That's what
We want it to go to, council.
That's what I'm thinking, council having to come in here and answer.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
You all right with
just
that?
Part of that same.
pass that on to the, for the next meeting.
Are you all right with that?
Yeah.
Any other questions in there? I know you had a few of them. After.
No, the other ones all, when the check came on the board, answered themselves.
And that's what most of them covered with that. And anybody else have any group discussion?
Mr. He asked, pardon me, go ahead.
I attended the Broadneck Community Association meeting at Pat's invite at our last meeting here. And, we're quite impressive. It was a huge turnout. County Executive, Stuart Pittman was there, ex-Senator Big Ed Riley was there. And at the refreshment break, I asked Pat if I could stand up and introduce myself and tell people that if they had any questions or comments, I would present them at this meeting. So one gentleman came up and asked me my email, and he sent me a lengthy email. I'll summarize it now. His name is Stephen Sheeny. And he said he'd like to see hefty tolls at all the exits on the way between the Seven River Bridge and the Bay Bridge. And I didn't comment at the time, although I didn't think the businesses along the route would care for that. But he said that the locals could have a pass, such as an easy pass, so they could get off without any charges to them. So that's it. I said I present it. That's it. Any comments?
Thank you.
And so, yeah.
Well, really prices, but it sounds like an equal
Yeah,
treatment issue.
concerned about the length of time it gets to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Weekends, I've experienced it for years now. So,
And you know, one thing to help for me, if you're gonna get back to him, help for him to know is there's a whole hearing process too, anytime the tolls are set. So, you know, didn't have a great community involvement. You know, we talked about the dynamic of holding this, the hearing process that is very, very detailed. I've sat through the most recent one. And I know there are times when you get no feedback, and then there are times you get plenty of feedback when tolls are going up. So, so that would be something that you know.
And one of the issues, isn't it, that all of the public are entitled to use the roads, public roads under the same circumstances? Same rules.
It's not saying that it's impossible to toll the exits, it's just that we can't create these local preferences that
Yeah,
are
exactly.
envisioned. And I would even challenge, like, what does it mean to be local? If you're a Queen Anne's County commuter returning on a Friday home, driving on the side road, are you a local?
right.
Hop off and give us a-
You know, there's a lot of
Yeah, it
issues.
has to be done by zip code.
Yeah.
See,
We all know that word.
Oh, yes, Mr. Mikowski, hopefully I didn't butcher your name, sir. He asked a question. It's my understanding that most of the weekly beach rentals are Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday. What if landlords were incentivized to stop weekly rentals to other days of the week? I just wanted to respond that we do every year coordinate with the Commerce Department to try to create incentives that in Ocean City, some of them are with the property owners, some of them are with travelers where they can get special deals if they go during certain times. So those types of incentives already exist.
And be careful what you wish for, because then your numbers westbound get elevated and you have no contract flow Monday through Friday. Yikes. So,
You know, most people,
then you get called 7 days a week, and that's just.
But if a large number of landlords did a Wednesday to Wednesday thing, would it make a big difference?
that's what Jim was just saying, like you're diverting the traffic patterns, and then you have a lot of people coming back westbound during the week on Wednesdays.
change it Wednesday,
Can't have.
instead of Sunday to Wednesday.
Right, because you're heavy westbound traffic.
A lot of people don't work on the weekend,
Right.
and
Speak for
if
yourself.
you take 2 weekends, take a vacation, it incorporates 2 weekends, you're there longer and not missing work. If you go Wednesday to Wednesday, you're gonna miss more work.
What else?
You're gonna, you know, I don't know if that has anything, I think that's maybe how they started running weekends, but, some of us still gotta do things on the weekend.
Yeah.
Not ride around in big trucks.
Bay Bridge.
You get go, take care of it. That's all the money's up there calling somebody out of the car. And you don't care. You hurry up and get that guy out of there so we can get the house off the bridge.
All right, so our next, let's see, public comments, we have any public comments alone or anything?
No one called.
Good. Agree, so our next meeting will be on October the 5th, 6 p.m. in this room, hopefully. Maybe need heat by then. One here. So, have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All right, thank everybody for being here tonight. You were over it all, but
Thank you.
a lot of good information, so thank you all.
Thank you.